Alright, so here's a quick video. I'm doing the Wicked Wheel WW65 upgrade on my Hummer H1. It's a 1998. I already removed this housing here. There's 4 bolts that look like this. I want to say they were a 15. And I removed all these to be able to get to the exhaust turbine. And I'm putting a socket on that, which is a 13, to hold the turbine still. And then this one here is like an 11. I'm using a wrench. Now these are left-hand thread, so you have to hold the turbine still on the other side, and then you're going to turn it, is that clockwise, to loosen it. And that turbine, the intake side, should just slide off just like that. That's the factory one. Now here's the Wicked Wheel. Looks really good. And so that should just slide right on. It's a lot tighter clearance than the factory one. I want to force it. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on it. So that's going to slide right on here, and I'm going to reassemble. So I took off these bolts here out of the intake side, little star bit here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that go through here. These are the short ones. There is one long one right here. And then you're going to take this housing off. As you can see, there was a little bit of RTV sealant between here and here, so I'll clean all that off really well before I reinstall it or reinstall that housing. But yeah, it's pretty simple to take the turbo off once you get the doghouse out. There's 2 V-band clamps here. There's one here, one here. Those both come off. And then there's 2 bolts. One here and one here, and you undo those bolts, undo these clamps, and take all that off. If you have, as you can see, I have the spring-loaded mechanical wastegate controller. So if you have a vacuum-controlled one, you'd have to undo the vacuum line. But I recommend these. I've been running this for years, and it gives me about 14 psi, and it really wakes it up a little bit. So, but I'll do once I get some grease on this shaft, I'll do another video. Now when you reuse, you're gonna reuse this little bolt. Where is it? This little nut here, and you're gonna tighten that back up. But remember, it's left-hand thread, so you don't want to mess up the threads when you go to reinstall this. You're gonna, doesn't feel natural, but you're gonna screw it on going backwards like that. Okay, so I put a little bit of this high temp disc brake grease, which is just fine. It's just high temp grease. I just put a little bit on this shaft because the tolerance between the Wicked Wheel and the factory one, the tolerance was a lot closer, so this slid right off easily. This one was really tight, so I didn't have to force anything when I put the grease on. It slid right on, but I did have to kind of put a little bit more pressure on the edges here, like push down here and here, and it just slid right down. So now that that's on, you're gonna take and thread this on. You're gonna thread it backwards like this. And then I called and talked to the guys at dieselsite.com, and they said not to torque it down. They said to just use the wrench and just snug it up. So snug it up, I guess everyone has a little bit of a different interpretation, but because this is left-hand thread, it'll naturally tighten itself as it spins. So I'm gonna just put the socket on the exhaust side and then just slightly snug it up. I don't want it to be too tight, but I don't want it to be too loose either. So I'm gonna do that here in just a minute, and then it should be good to go. I'm gonna finish cleaning up this housing here, clean this up, clean up the inside of this one here, and then reline it up and apply some RTV, just a thin layer of RTV here, and then put it all back together and start working on reassembly.